Good evening, everyone. Welcome again. So there's already a lot of you, which I'm very happy to see. Mark, your cinnabar isn't dusty. Don't worry about it. Really. In paint form, nothing can happen unless you eat the paint or lick your brush. But I wouldn't recommend that with any paint. But in paint form, it is safe. Sound is good now. That is good to hear. It took me some time to figure out what happened last live stream. Apparently I had to unplug the microphone. So the settings, I don't know, there was something with the settings. Let's have a look. Everything is ready. I am surrounded now by a new pigment, or at least not a new pigment, but quite an exclusive pigment. And I got a sample of that pigment, I think 3 hours ago in the mail. So I have it over here from Pigment Tokyo. With a very special thanks to Tamas from artistpigments.org. He sent me it along with 2 other pigments. So very, very grateful, very thankful, very grateful of the generosity. And the chance to try this Chrome Orchid, what it's called. So that's what we're going to start with today. I actually hope that Sebastian is joining us as well. Sebastian, if you are watching, congratulations, a toast to you. Sebastian won first prize in the South African arts contest or competition. And number 1, well, there isn't much better than number 1, so congratulations again. I congratulated him. I think live during the chat last Saturday during the gala, which was a live stream here on YouTube and obviously on Instagram as well. Well, you hear it here now that we have a star in our midst. If he's joining us, otherwise, he is with us in our pigment hearts, I think. It was a Saturday. Things happen. I think it's okay. I think he won't be mad about it. It wasn't live with Sebastian. There were two hosts that were walking around in a gallery, showing everything and giving a little bit of background information about the artist, about the artworks, and then the results. So yeah, I was very impressed by his work. I've seen some Instagram, haven't seen this, so that was the first time I saw that. I don't know if the live stream is recorded, but I did share the link in my live last Wednesday. It's somewhere in the chat then, but So let's start making some paint. And it's not the alcohol for the camera. I mean, that shouldn't have an influence on the camera. There we go. So it's a fresh bag of pigment from Pigment Tokyo. To, you know, in full transparency, Tamas also sent me Cobalt Nico Grey Light and Antimony Grey. Shall we? Can we? Let's have a look. There we go. PBK 25, PBK 23, and PR236. Gulchen, no, I didn't make. I didn't purchase it from Pigment Tokyo. Well, Tamas from artistpigments.org sent me these along with some dots that he made of pigments that are not within the regular line of any paint. These aren't as well. These are pigments from Kusakabe. I know how you write it, but I've never pronounced this. Kusakabe. And is YouTube deleting some chats? Are they? I'm sorry to hear for, well, mostly for Sebastian's car, but thank you, Mark. Sebastian. Thanks for joining from your car. I hope you can continue your trip very swiftly. Hopefully it's nothing too bad. Again, cheers to you, Sebastian. And I hope you get somewhere not in your car, safe, very soon. Let's start. Sebastian, seriously? Thank you so much. Thank you, literally. That's, again, too much, and especially with your car broken down. Sylvie, welcome. I'm just going to highlight this, Sebastian, because Oh, and it has a special color now. It's too kind of you, Sebastian. I wish that were true, Mark. Let's have a look. There was a thing, and it's so I'm going to, before I start making paint, I'm going to tell the live chat should be included with the recorded live streams, only it takes 24 hours for it to load and stuff. Thank you. Hope help gets there soon, Sebastian. Good luck with it. So before I start making paint, a few years ago, I think I started making paint. It was after, I think, a few months after I started making paint. I saw something very cool, very unique on Marketplace, and I still get very frustrated when I think about this. But I looked it up again because I wanted to see what I actually what I was missing. So I saw a wooden box with pigments. And you know, I have loads of wooden boxes with pigments. This one was from Caran d'Ache, the brand you might know from pencils. And the title of the box was, let's have a look, can I still, I don't know anymore. But I looked it up again. I have a picture for you. So I'm just going to share the picture first. This handmade mahogany pigments, a drawer for the Muller, drawer for the binders, drawer for the palette knife, and a little glass slab at the top. Beautiful box. These are the things, if I see that, I need to kind of have it or make it or I want it. I saw this for 200 euros. I didn't have 200 euros back then. There are quite a few moments I don't have it now. At least not like for those things. Not that I can at any time I can say I can just spend it on that, but then definitely not. So I made an offer of 150, and then I was pushing it with 150 euros. I didn't agree, and there was some bidding going on, and it went from a little bit above 200. But his initial offer after the question to me was, 200. That was his offer to me. You can get it from 200. I wish I would have done that. I looked it up. I was seriously, I couldn't think of, what was it again? I knew it was a beautiful wooden box. I knew it had like the little doors with the pigments and the drawers and like all-in-one paint station-ish thing. So I did some digging. I shouldn't have done that. They only made 50. That's the first ouch in this story. They only made 50. It was for their boutiques. They only sold them to, you know, special boutiques. And this one, that one, let me have a look. Can I? I could still get it. So 200. This one, the picture I saw at a very old auction at Sotheby's. And it went for a few $1,000s. So that's the first thing that hurt me. Yeah, it's Sennelier, Magazine Sennelier had one on their website still, but that listing was off since it was sold for more than 5,000 euros, and they said they still had some like in stock, but that was wrong. I called them. Yeah, that 200 would have been a steal. But the thing is, you know, when I would have bought that, and I would have added my own pigments to the boxes. So I wouldn't have left it original, so it would have lost its worth in that case. For me, it would have been a beautiful wooden box with pigments. But yeah, it's yeah. Sometimes you just need to forget about the past and yeah. Anyway, that was what I came across this week. And then I started thinking, you know, are there any things here that might have gotten more expensive now? And old days, exactly that. Pigment prices have, in some cases, pigment prices have almost tripled. And it really depends on the source, but most prices, looking at, to come back to another question from a watercolorist, when did I start making paint? I think I started doing it like more in a serious way. I started looking into things more, into going into depth, and the way I'm handling my process and my my research and all the things now. I started doing that in early 2001, I think. 2021. Wow, 21. So a little over 3 years ago. Before that, I made some paints, but it was more like what I've talked about here as well. Oh, let's put some things together, and oh, it looks so fun. Oh, sorry, old days. Yeah, antique mullers might be one of those. That's also why I thought about that. I digitalized my my first antique muller. So this is a 3D scan of the one from 1400, so the 15th century. Welcome, Andrea. So this is quite the scan worked quite well, I have to say. It looks very much like the actual thing. It misses some of the small like hairline cracks in it because the resolution of my scanner isn't it's not the most modern one, but there's enough like nooks and crannies in it to make it I can print it. So if anyone's interested in a plastic replica of an old stone Muller, let me know. Mr. Pigments, welcome. Yes, this is the Japanese pigment I am surrounded by. Also now, let's just start make some paint. So I literally cut open the bag during the live. I haven't made this before. I'm just going to make a small dot to see what it looks like. Let's take the small Muller again. Shall we take the tiny Muller? Let's take the medium Muller for this. This is my plastic dip Muller with the rubber handle. Sorry to hear that, Paolo. Do I need to... I don't know if I can pause the ads. Should I try that, Paolo? I'm not quite sure if that works. Though I think I have I've paused it. Oh, I can only do that for 10 minutes now. For the next 10 minutes, no one will see ads, hopefully. Hopefully Paolo hears this as well. Or he is gone already. It does look like purpurism. Absolutely, Fat Filbert. I have no idea how it works all days. I have two options. Either I let YouTube do it very mildly regular setting or very aggressively. I always keep it on like the regular thing for everyone. Or I can manually add ads. But I don't want to make a button or, you know, do things to play an ad to think about my income or something like that. So yeah, I have no idea how it works automatically. Thank you, Rick, and welcome. It's a chrome tin pigment. Yeah, and its name is Chrome Orchid. Adding a little bit of water. Yeah, and it didn't change any settings in watercolorist, so I really don't know what is going on. And I think Paolo just left immediately. If a watercolor, a question here from old days, if the watercolor got sheen, does that mean there's too much binder or something else? Really depends on where the sheen is. If it's on the pen, like if you have a pan of watercolor here and it's like shiny, it could be a pigment property. I know my Pyrrol Scarlet is quite shiny, and I can't use any less binder with that, or it will crackle and you know, just fall off the paper. If there is a shiny edge around your watercolor on the paper, or if it's shiny completely, it's a little bit too much gum arabic or binder. Yeah. Ah, that's good to hear, Sylvie. I think that's about the brother of the little brother of this one. Gulchen, that's mostly, I think, with inks. If they are like shellac based, it could be absolutely be the binder in case of the ink. I just made a little bit just to swatch it. Brush. By the way, Gulchen, there was some grittiness in it. I'm sorry, I was just thinking about your comment. I don't know, just my mind works like that. There was absolutely some grittiness in the paint while mulling. Let's have a look how the white balance is today with this. White balance is trying its best, but let's help it a little bit, at least with the exposure. There we go. Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm just going to check the other questions as well, or at least the other chat. Gulchen, this. Oh, we have this again. Okay, so I think if I do that, yay, I fixed it. But the the chat is now behind the. It's not working. Okay, let me just do it like this. I think this is a dye property. What you're describing there, Gulchen. All days. Another question I had all week. Do you have colored glass pigments? Yes. Or can I explain what they do differently from normal pigments? Yes and yes. There are multiple ways of making glass-like pigments. So what they sell on Kramer on the Kramer website, it's literally colored glass. So this has a little bit of a green tint to it, whereas you know, this is fully clear when you look at the glass. A full colored glass like blue or red or orange or those are colored chemically. I don't know what they use for it. I know, you know, for blue glass they use cobalt, for instance, or they used to use cobalt. They grind that glass down, so the chemically colored glass is a powder. It makes so much sense, and it's I think I'm just even saying too much for, you know, what it is, how it works while making paint or as a paint. You need to think that if you remember the amethyst video I made, or if you've seen it, I start with a very violet piece of amethyst, and it's a quartz. It's a colored crystal that gets gray or white, or just a lot lighter and losing color. It's the same with glass. Glass doesn't keep its deep transparent color it has as it would in, you know, stained glass, for instance, or glass art. So the white you see here, the mullers that Thomas also makes with the nice colored handles, that glass will lose most of its color or end up with a pastel-like color if you grind it up. So I have glass pigments. I think I'm able to show you some, but they're not as vibrant as other synthetic pigments. There is another way to make mineral-like pigments like that, because they do feel like that. And it's more like enamel, a layer of enamel, or a ceramic glaze, for instance, works. So not so much glass, but a hard substance that needs to be baked into chunks of colored something, and they grind that up. That does give way more vibrant colors, but they also get less vibrant the more you grind them. So if you have like chunks, think azurite. I showed that during a live a while back. I think I started with really fine, deep. Wait, is everything still working? I get an error here. I hope everything's working well enough for everyone. Again, I haven't changed anything, and yet today YouTube decides that my stream is a little bit too much of data or something. I don't know. There's like a big yellow error thing in my screen there, but you know, if everything's working fine for you, good, then I'll just keep talking. The azurite that I made ended up in a beautiful sky blue, whereas I started with deep blue chunks. So Pure coincidence, I saw that on Pigment Tokyo website just now. I saw that they sell those pigments. So yeah, it's this is not one of them. Those pigments don't have a pigment number. Those pigments don't have a chemical property or fingerprint. Basically, you can think of any color and make it into something grindable, something hard and grindable. Grind that up and make it into a paint or a pigment. Is there any difference between mineral crystals when they are ground up extremely fine without added color? Yeah, absolutely. You can, if you would grind up pure emerald, like real emerald, you would get a hint of green. With violet, you get a grayish, maybe a cool leaning gray, but a gray. With a tiger's eye, you do get a brown, but it's the same kind of, within the same kind of crystal family, although it is opaque. So there's a difference there. But I'm not a mineralogist. I don't know enough about that. But I know that there's there can be a huge difference between minerals. Let me get a dot pen. That is not a clean dot pen. Yeah, that's the pictures I've seen from Pigment Tokyo, mostly on Instagram. They have a huge wall with a rainbow of I think thousands of colors maybe, and most of them are that. So for me, this is a fully new pigment, and this brand that makes the pigment and the paint with this pigment is also the only one that does that. So I'm happy to have it. I've never bought from Pigment Tokyo before myself because of the shipping, and I didn't have enough of things. I collect, to put it very simply, maybe oversimplified, I collect pigment numbers. So I'm looking what kind of pigment number do I not have, and which versions are there, and is it worth to get more versions? Is just one enough? Yeah, I don't know all days. So I got this sample and these two black pigments, although this looks like a white and this looks like a blue. These are both PBK pigments. I got these from Tamas from artistpigment.org. So looking at this, it's still drying for me, but here you have the same pigment. This is the curve. If we compare that to a pale potter's pink, also from the same brand, it's quite a similar curve, although this little cradle here is a little bit deeper and slightly more to the left with potter's pink. But if we get that away and look at a mix of PV15 ultramarine violet and potter's pink, it is very similar, still deeper and a little bit more to the left, but this both a granulating pigment, so it's a new for me a new granulating pink, and you can see it happening here. And a muted kind of pink, but a little cooler than and slightly brighter than Potter's Pink. The pigment numbers of these samples are PBK 23 and PBK 25. I looked, yeah, 20 to 30 euros for 400 grams of pigments. Which I found was a little bit too much, since there will be import fees and VAT added to that. I can show those to you as well, a watercolorist. Let me have a look if they're over here. This is antimony gray. So it's basically like a single pigment dirty blue, which I love, and cobalt nickel gray light. It looks like a dark buff titanium to me. So these are three new pigments that they offer, both in paint as in a dry pigment that they sell from at Pigment Tokyo. Well, there was it was 20 euros of shipping, I think, for 400 grams of pigment. So, but these little bags here, this is 15 grams. It's like 5-6 euros for this pigment. Some are more expensive, some are cheaper. And I think 20 euros shipping isn't an issue, but it is when you're only looking for small sample bags, and then it gets a lot. Also, when I look at import fees like VAT and handling fees, I think you can add another 30% to the total price. In my case, do they have two versions of PBK 25? Oh yeah, the antimony gray, right? Yeah, they have a dark and a light one, but the pigment they only sell the light version of. I do like the dark one better, which when I saw it in paint, I think. I can show it to you actually. Here's the darker one. So interestingly, this curve is completely different. Not only just higher here because it's lighter, but the entire curve is different, which is very interesting. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I do like the color. But let me get my swatches. We have we have Potter's Pink here. And there's Yintico here. I don't have a swatch that fits in that little box of mine yet for the color I'm looking for. Can I even find it? If I can't find it, I'm not going to try to grab it even. Now this is a mess. Yeah, graphite can absolutely be used as a pigment. I do sell it as a paint as well, soon again at least. So this is the Chrome Orchid. This is Yintico and Potter's Pink. It is a little bit to the oversaturated side, but it is quite close still. So I'm not saying that's not correct. Yeah, I'm literally taking that while you were asking it, Mark. Ultramarine pink next to it as well. Yeah, the Yintico looks quite bright next to the muted pinks here, but it is Yintico. In the meantime, I'm just quickly looking through. Here's another Yintico swatch, and it's just Yintico. There's even another one. What is this? This is frustrating. I think this was a mix. That belongs with between this. That is so frustrating. Now I do write my the pigment numbers next to everything. Oh, this was a test, and I asked this on Instagram, which one people like best. All ultramarine pinks. Yeah, there's a lot of mystery swatches when I'm just, you know, experimenting with mixes and I'm not paying attention, or I'm doing too many things at once. Yes, I can also get those. I think I can get those. And to finish it, we have Cerium Red next to it as well, to complete it with a granulating dark red. So I think these are all the granulating reds we can think of. I think. Ooh, and there's PV16, PV55, PV14, there we go. So way pinker. But if you would mix these two, you get something very close in a wash at least. So yeah, there's this. Let's write this down with this one. Yeah, I think Potter's Pink and Ultramarine Pink will do that as well. But it was probably to be honest, it was probably a PV15 that looked like this. And my ultramarine pink is still a PR259, but that has been discontinued last year, so I still have enough of that. My PV15 is an ultramarine violet. Do the gritty pigments taint a bit with the knife? Not that I know of. PV. Yeah, PR259 is discontinued now, so that is a shame, but there are PV15s that are very similar. I should have a cardboard box with pigments. No, it's PR259. That chemical identification of the pigment, so that pigment number, that is discontinued. But as a watercolorist says, you can get ultramarine pink as PV15. It's just not the same exact pigment anymore, but it's the same with PV49 and PV14. You can't see the difference. So what is in the box? Glass pigments. So to just show you what I mean with desaturated colors, these all look quite pastel, if you ask me. Farbglas fuchsia. That sounds like it has to be very similar to the paint we just made, so let's do this. Farbglas amethyst rötlich. Amethyst. I don't think so, but it's not violet. Do you have red? Opalrood, so opal red, no. Koraalrood. It's not really a deep red here. Schwarz. Zeker niet. I have no red, and I think I'm going to go with the pinkest one. So I'm just going to show you a quick example. There is a small difference, and you're forgetting PG24. But there is a small difference. There are little additions to PV15 after PB29, and the process is different for PR259. So let's make this pink. It looks almost as if I was scooping this on the... Oh God, it doesn't look too much the same, or else I'm just, you know, wasting the... But PR258 Has that ever been available as a pigment? Do you know that? Hey, what's colorist? Yeah, hey, what colorist? About the clarification, I wish that I knew out the top of my head what the addition for PV15 was. I think it's oxidization and temperature that needs to change for the ultramarine pink. I used to know it, but like I said, in the 3.5-3-ish years, I'm doing this more seriously, and I'm getting better at that. I think I've learned a lot, but I've also forgotten quite a lot. There's like a limit to learning too much in a short period of time and remembering everything as well. Especially when I look something up for a video, I open a book or I look it up on the internet and I read it, and I'm trying to explain things in my own words, and then if I don't think about that for 2 months, I've kind of forgotten about it, at least the details. Same with the new magenta video. I did quite some research for that to see if everything I said was correct and how I said it was correct. And then if you're asking now about this, I know what I said in the video when I look at the video, but I couldn't explain it again in that way right now. So as you notice, and this is more a general comment, I'm not like, I'm looking up the quantity that I just made. This is a 1/4 of a teaspoon, a 1/4 teaspoon, or 1.25 milliliters of pigment and binder. I've mulled this for a few minutes, not even. And if Mark is still here to answer one of your questions, Mark, how hard should you be milling? I've talked about that in the How to Make Paint video series that I made a while back. I'm using quite a lot of downwards pressure. So I'm not only moving my muller, but I'm forcing it downwards. And with a muller like this, it's a very light one. A muller like this is heavy. It does quite a lot of work for me, but still, since this has a large surface area, I need to move it quite a lot, but I don't want a thick layer of paint to be between the slab and the muller. I want that layer of paint to be as thin as possible, so that the dispersion of the pigments with the binder is as fine as possible. So I'm always using a lot of force, which might explain the inflammation in my shoulder. I don't know, but yeah. If you do that, if you are milling like that, you need to mull for quite a less time. How do you say that? Than if you would just, you know, let your muller slide by itself and you're just moving it. So it helps. It is. Sometimes it's a workout, not for these things, but sometimes it's a bit of a workout. But it saves you a lot of time. And especially with, this is a glass pigment, or if we're talking a silica or a quartz. If your goal is to get a fine dispersion with a fine pigment, when you're starting with a pigment that is a little bit more coarse, like the azurite or a mineral pigment, just using your muller in the movement and letting the muller do the gliding isn't enough. So that pressure really makes the particles finer, and helps with the dispersion. So it's a win-win. And another question I get quite a lot is people asking, for how long do you need to mull? Well, it's the same answer as I've just given. Also, it depends on the pigment. Also, it depends on how you mull. And the more you do it, the more familiar it will feel, and you know when it's ready. So when we're looking close up, as you can see, these glass pigments are very, very transparent. I right now have a bunch of pigment added to my brush, like straight from the pile of paint over there. As you can see, when I spread it out, it's a very pale, very transparent pigment. Exactly. That was a good hunch you had, Gulchen. Twopska. Nice name. It's a very good question. Hopefully it fits on the screen there. Should I try making paint with something other than raw earth? Because I feel like it always takes 4 hours to even get something that feels a little bit like paint. Also, another factor, how much pigment you're using. So that's my question to you. How much paint are you making when it takes you 4 hours? Because I've never, it never took me more than an hour for any pigment. But if you're working in very large quantities, obviously that will take a lot longer. I usually do whatever feels kind of comfortable on my slab without the fear of making a mess. And I sometimes make 2 batches, of the same color at a time. But still, I hear more people mulling for hours, and I noticed that for me that didn't make a difference in the saturation or the color strength or the anything that that would add something if I would mull another hour. If it's good on my Heckman gauge, and if it feels good, if it looks good on paper, and if it doesn't change after 15 minutes of mulling more, but if it was already there, then sometimes it's just good. But if it doesn't feel like paint before that, What kind of pigments? What kind of pigment are you talking about? Mark, with a mortar and pestle, there isn't that much of control over the fineness, the overall fineness of the pigment. What happens with a pestle and a mortar, messel and a porter? Wow. Is that you kind of push the pigments into the bowl, into the. Oh, I can just take one over here. Why make it a difficult story when I can just show you. If you grind pigments like this, you'll eventually make like thick layers of pigments sticking to the sides. You need to scrape that and do it again on a slab while using that pressure. There's a much more control in the overall fineness. If you are talking like chunks of mineral, yeah, start with a pestle and a mortar first, and then put it on the slab. Locally forged earth. Oh, that's. Thank you, Gulchan. Need a little bit of mental support here now and then. Thank you very much. I did have the dots. Do you also know where I left my dot? Need to take it out of the candy jar. But yeah, these glass pigments, if you just want to practice your paint making skill, and if you think mineral pigments aren't your thing, or they're too expensive, or like with azurite, there's copper in it. With malachite, same thing. So you need to wear protection and a lot more than with these pigments, especially in larger quantities. This dot, really, there's barely any pigment I'm working with anyway. These are perfect pigments to practice your mulling skill, actually. Oh, I haven't opened the DMs this afternoon / evening yet, Mark, so I will check for you. Okay, I will read everything after. It looks, to be honest, it looks pretty good, but I do notice that on my webcam it looks a little bit more orange than on the screen. This looks a little bit like what you sent me here. Looks like a combination between PY129 and PY150. It looks very okay to me. So I'm not quite sure what you need to do otherwise, or what you can do otherwise to change this, Mark. So this was a glass pigment. I think I made a glass pigment for the first time here on at least live. That's the wrong one. There we go. So PR236 is, and they're, by the way, they are nothing alike. To just, it's both a pinkish color, but this really has a beautiful granulation in it, and this is just a very transparent color. It's lovely, but it's not something you could use in any palette. Was actually quite surprised that I could find them this quickly. It's beautiful for a glaze, yeah. And maybe the glass would give a nice effect when you're mixing it with a lighter, gravity-wise, a lighter pigment, so a fine, light powdered pigment. It might give a nice effect as well. But it's a very specific pigment. So I could see people using this and sell it as a genuine pink quartz or something like that. Then it would make sense to me if you see something like this. Let me have a look if it actually. There's no shine to it, or a very minimal one, but can't really see it. Oh wow, Gulchen, I wasn't thinking the paint brand, so this was a very weird sentence. You just randomly said you had a Rembrandt. I know one Rembrandt I got is glass and it's glittery. Could be. I mean, this was colored glass. I think if you would use a different type of glass, yeah. Sylvie is asking a very interesting question. How do you know that your pens are ready, that all layers are dry enough? Make sure that make sure to do this with each layer. Make sure it's hard, so it shouldn't be like rock solid, but it shouldn't be moving again if you press on it. Old days, yeah, I think you can safely say that. The ones that I tried before, I tried a blue one, I tried I think a coral red and a moss green. They all had this same same kind of transparency and pastel like finish to it. I'm going to have a look at it, Gulchen. Yeah, Sylvie, to come back at your question, so this is the manganese blue I made for the video, and last week, should remember to switch my camera. Last week I posted the video, before I went live, posted the video like that afternoon, I think. Then it was still like gel-like. You can move it. If I would press here, like a blob of paint will come out here, and there's no movement in it here now anymore. If you do that for each layer, and if it's not sticky as well, I mean that's important as well. If the humidity is very high, the top layer can get sticky again. You need to avoid that as well. But yeah, at least that's what I prefer. You're going to pour wet paint over this, so obviously the paint underneath will kind of dissolve and, you know, start sticking anyway. But doing that, checking it before you're pouring it is the best way. Other ways, you can actually see it with some paints if you especially if you make it more often. For instance, this is ultramarine blue, which I made the other day. So each new binder that I make a small test with ultramarine. It's my kind of go-to pigment and this was such a sloppy the actual test. I think I threw it away. This was just paint that I was left with, but it dries like on the paper. It's not sticky. It's not in my dehydrator. It's just laying here on my desk in my studio. It gets quite cold at night here, but it's not sticky. It's not rubbing off the paper. It's not doing anything I don't want it to do. So this was a binder that was successful. I've never had a binder that wasn't successful if I finished it. So I've said this before. I've had one that reeked, that smelled sour, like fermenting. That was just a gum arabic that stood there for way too long. That was on me. So I threw that out. But I've never had a binder that wasn't good after I mixed everything in. So, but this is a test I do anyway because I don't want to just assume that I'm brilliant and I don't make mistakes, and I wanna be sure that, especially when I only need to finish the top layer of paints. I do that with a binder that works, not that like 75%, 80% of my half pans are perfect with my previous binder, and then I make a new binder, and then I did something wrong, maybe without noticing, and I topped everything off with the wrong binder, and I ruined the entire batch of paint. That's a nightmare. So to avoid that, always test your new binder. Or if you buy store-bought ones, I would actually still test it. I do this one grows on me. That's way too dark. This one not so much, though I do like it, but I don't see any use for it in my line of paint now. It's very frustrating that if I'm looking on the swatch here, if I'm looking at the screen, it doesn't really matter where I look. I would think if I didn't see this next to anything else, I would think this is it's a little bit too pale for an ultramarine pink. I would go with a Yintico based on the most pictures I've seen of that, and that is the Schmincke version. Definitely not my version. But based on the Schmincke version, I would actually, without any reference next to it, autofocus. There you go. in my mind, the indica would look like this. So it's very weird to you're seeing them next to each other, especially so if you would make this after quinacridone magenta, for instance, this one would look like this. That's kind of the difference that I have in my head, I think. It's okay. There's really not a. I have a preference when it comes to gum arabic. I'm the chunks, these chunks of acacia tree sap is what I prefer, because I like the way that I see it kind of dissolving over 2 days. I just like that. It's a part of my process. It's a part of my ritual. But I wouldn't say this would be better for any reason than powder. So Mark, I think there was another question of yours. These do look tasty. You can actually eat it. Well, it's not like it's quite hard, but these are in sodas, in chewing gum, in loads of foods. There's gum arabic. But yeah, this kind of looks like rock sugar. Especially, when a piece broke off like this, that shiny part in the middle, we can just see through everything here. Kind of like magnifier effect that you get from the crystal within. And then that rough surface here. So this is exactly that is why I want to use those things. I think that's important too. When you're making paint as a business, and I really I shouldn't have made a 3D scan of my Muller today. I needed to find my 3D scanner. Needed to install it, calibrate it, make a couple of scans, combine those to one model. To be honest, I should have used my time better. But where I was going with this, when you were a small scale paint maker, so I'm not talking big brands, I'm not talking the huge factories, but like small scale, like me, maybe smaller, or like Agayo or Blue Pine Arts, or whatever bigger brands there are. Roman Small even, that make small batch paints. I think it is important that you should enjoy the things you're doing, and even if it is the type of gum arabic you're using, if that's a part that makes you a little bit more happy to get those crystals, and it doesn't taste like anything. Maybe a bit like an envelope. Thanks for this. Thanks for making me do this all days. But why I did this? Well, now you know. And this is because you are a member here on my YouTube, that I just tasted it for you. Any tips on how to dry my future pens so that they don't get dirty? Wash your hands. Dry your future pens so that they don't get dirty. What do you mean? When you're filling them? it left a layer on my tongue. Still doesn't taste like anything. Let's wash it away. Oh, like waiting for layers to dry. That's a very good question. Okay, so a good question, highlighting and adding this to it as well. Exactly. Like dust in the room. A dehydrator works very well, but, and there is a big but there, the entire idea behind a dehydrator is that there is a fan sucking air from the room and most of the times heating it, blowing it through the enclosed space, and then there's outlets where that air can go out. If the spot where it's standing is quite dusty and there is movement of air there, and the dust will also be attracted and go within the stream of that air, it will still be less dusty on the pans than when you would put them like in the same room, because there is a constant flow of air and it doesn't really settle on it. But there are still chances that it will be left on your paint. That doesn't answer your question. Then there's the light behind me that does weird things. I don't know why they do that. I don't know why. I need to check that out. You need to, yeah, absolutely. Gulchen, you need to clean the fan. You need to clean the surroundings. What I've done, but there is a difference between computer fans and the fans in dehydrators, and that is the size of it and the speed of it. So there's a higher RPM with computers, and a lot more heat distributed there. But what I've done with my dehydrator over there is I put just a dust filter of an air filtrator of mine. I put a dust filter in front of the inlet. Is the inlet a good word? I don't know. There's an outlet of air. So where it sucks the air in to the ventilator, but please test if there is not a lot of resistance for the air. So your fan can either burn out or just stop and break down when there's not enough movement of air possible, because you use a dust filter that is too thick, that just doesn't let enough air in, and that is a thing you need to think about. But it is possible to solve these issues like that. In my case, the IKEA ones, I think, where did I leave them? I really thought they were over here. I did not put them over there. Then where are they? Oh, they're lower. I'm not going to get there. The rectangle IKEA ones, they're fairly cheap, and the only thing you need to do is don't let dust in. So yeah, that will do the trick. It's a good comment, Mark. An air purifier also helps, especially with pigment particles. I think the idea of safety there is a must for me, but there is an issue with dehydrators, especially I have a big one next to me here. And the thing with this is it sucks the air. It's like literally, here's my hand and it's there. So it's this length, half an arm's length away from my slab. It sucks the air in from the front and it blows it out on the sides to the top. So that way. The issue with that is I'm here in front of a window, and there's a window and there's a wall. Here's my desk. The movement of the air will make the pigments that already kind of flow here, if they're not being sucked there, they're making it like going over here, and I don't want that as well. So don't put it too hard. Mostly turn it on like full strength when you're not working. But yeah. I got a small air purifier with a round HEPA filter. Yeah, that's perfect, Sylvie. Is an air purifier expensive? Check the IKEA ones. They have like a small square one with just a dust filter in it, I think. Yeah, then they have the rectangle ones. I have 2 of those. They have a dust filter and an active carbon filter for toxic gases and stuff like that, and a dust filter, like a larger dust filter, which is the cover. This one also has that, a dust filter, a fine particle filter, and a active carbon filter. Yeah, but what I kind of have like for my square meters here, my studio space, I think my new studio is what you see here from camera. Well, here, I think here, where I'm standing here now, is half of my studio. So I have this space over here. Here's my computer and everything is here, and then my 3D printers and a little kitchenette and other things are over there. So 3 of those are, for my space, are kind of overkill. But I'd rather have overkill in too clean air that's too clean. That wasn't right. Than just not enough and pigments settling down everywhere, or breathing them in, which I really don't want. Well, why IKEA has that? They have a large smart home selection, and one of the things of a smart home is like knowing what kind of air quality there is. So they have an air quality monitor. I have one on my desk here, and which is quite accurate. There's one over there as well, be above my dehydrator. But it says the temperature, the humidity, the air quality, and air quality in 3 different measurements. So let's make a little bit, since we're doing little bits of paint. So Mark, this one is for you. PB10. What section should I look for glass slabs at IKEA? A Besta shelf, I think. But to be honest, it's been quite a while since I bought it. This is literally one over here. So this is a Besta shelf, which has been roughened up. and it's large enough for most things, I think. Putting it on my slab, it looks like this. It's a little bit thinner than my slab. I would suggest you get one of those anti-slip grip mats, those little square things I have underneath here. Would get one of those because you don't want to have it to do this. And it's the problem with that really thin glass, that it's maybe not perfectly level. They tend to be a bit flexible still because of the thickness. Ah, that's a shame. Thank you for joining, Sylvie. See you next time. I'm going to make PB10, by the way, for if you were wondering. Check the rewatch. But thanks for joining. And have a great evening. Do they sell at Jackson's? I think they used to sell like a little slab. It was this size, a square one at Jackson's with quite thick glass. But that has been quite a while ago since I've seen that. PB10. I have never made this before. No. So this live I just made 3 pigments that I've never made before. Because the pink glass I never made before as well. Yeah, this is a special edition Nutella. Yeah. This is basically the powdered version. I was in need of jars, okay? I am so sorry, but now, because I'm doing this, someone asked me about a palette knife. I think it was Ian. It was someone who was here quite early. In case you are still here, or in case you need to look it back, if I have any suggestions for palette knives, actually I do. If you're looking for brands you need to look up. Oh, you have the liquid. I'm not sponsored. So I wanna just clarify that. You have Liquitex Freestyle ones, which are nice because, and this is what is needed, it is one piece. So this little stem here towards the blade is one piece. What you don't want, I'm just going to put that out there. It's a very old palette knife, but you don't want this. You don't want that little soldered triangle on there. Although it looks nice like this, you don't want to have that. Those will break when you're making paint. So you want something that is made out of one piece of metal that goes like this. So Liquitex Freestyle is one that I use. Le Franc Bourgeois is another one that has the same idea. One piece, and they are, well, they're roughly the same. I think they might have just been come out of the same factory if it looked like this, but they are nice. Also, there's the basic, like, cheap art brand from Talents, Art Creation. That's your cheapest line of products. But this is the only palette knife that they sell that has that same thing. They do, at least they did sell more expensive palette knives, and they had that soldered thing there. This one doesn't. So there's that. So it really doesn't matter how expensive your palette knife is actually. If it has this, you're good. That's a very quick version. I'm looking, just behind the camera is looking, but I'm looking for something because I'm making a lot of noise here. This is an unbranded one, which had the same thing. And they used to sell these on Amazon. And I tried them. A thing with these are, though, the glue isn't that, that well done. And it does feel that the metal used here is a little bit softer, which really, for flexibility, that's nice, but it gets sharp very, very quickly. Yeah, so this is just a cheap Talent one, and the flexibility is pretty darn good. It is still sharp though. One more thing about this. I did a few streams ago, I talked about a custom palette knife. They stopped doing that because they couldn't guarantee the flexibility. So I need to look elsewhere, I think. Which was a shame, but that's something I really need. I don't actually need it at all. Let's make PB10 into paint. So first thing I noticed when I put this in the jar before the stream, it looks a lot like PB60 in its dry state. And it looks a lot like ballpoint ink as well, like PB60. It's a little bit brighter. It's like a bright ultramarine blue. If I look at it like this. This is not a light fast pigment, by the way. So someone also asked how to handle dusty and light pigments like this. Very slowly. Hopefully you can still get this off my slab. I do feel that it needs just a drop of binder. This is PB10, Mr. Pigments. See the edges here, what happens. So this is new for me in a pigment. It's kind of rejecting the slab when it's mixed with water. It's weird stuff. It looks beautiful. It's a deep pen-like, ink-like blue. But it rejecting my slab like this. That's weird. Definitely something else than PB60, since that is quite hard to mull. I mostly do that all days, which is a very, very good question though. But mostly I do that with hydrophobic pigments. But you can definitely do that with very fine, light, dusty pigments as well. Although if they mix easily into your binder, if you just use your palette knife carefully and move slowly, you can definitely get there with your palette knife. Yeah. It looks lovely, this. That is blue. And it does have a purple sheen. Good eye, Gulchan. Sometimes I'm really happy with what my webcam can do. Because I'm not quite... I would have sworn that you couldn't see that. I'm just watching at a tiny preview there. I mostly see your chat. What is the staining strength? I think it is very strong, since this is used as a dye, and hopefully I can get this off my slab. The blue it leaves here on my slab though is quite unique. Oh, okay, so there's proof it will leave my slab. How light fast is it? I think 3 to 5 out of 8 in the blue skill wall. This is my 9 centimeter Muller, yeah. This was from Jackson's. Let's swatch it, because I have the feeling that it is already a very fine pigment, and all I had to do is friendly introduce it to my binder, but so just this layer of paint here, which I cannot get more of my slab, is enough to make a swatch, which is already quite promising. Oh my god, it's just like ultramarine. Didn't really expect this, by the way. I didn't know what to expect with the pigment, because in the bag, and especially as a dry pigment, it looked like a phthalo. It had that kind of purple sheen over it. You see it here as well. A beautiful magenta